Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The golden light of dusk painted the room in a warm embrace, revealing the quiet atmosphere of the cozy abode. Shadows swayed in the dimness as if in unison with an unseen conductor. Amidst this serene scene, a towering silhouette, its breadth accentuated by the play of light and shadow, traced an anxious path across the floor. The man's eyes darted incessantly towards the antique clock, whose ticking echoed through the still room.
This charade has gone too far.
Gideon's voice was laden with fatigue, his fingers tugging through his cropped raven locks.
Each passing week brings yet another ideal partner paraded before me by her well-intentioned mother.
His companion, Olivia, was nestled on the sofa, her grasp tightening around the phone. The strain in her voice mirrored in the tension of her body. "Mother, I thank you, but—" She paused, her breath audible. "Says he comes from good stock." Rolling his eyes, Gideon squeezed her knee gently. They'd been through this routine countless times. Olivia's mother, Patricia, remained stubbornly convinced that her daughter could do better than a graphic designer with, as she put it, uncertain prospects. After ending the call, Olivia tossed her phone onto the cushion beside her. "That's the third one this month. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Did you tell her no?" "Of course I did. But you know how she is." Olivia's eyes welled with tears. "She says she's just invited him for dinner on Sunday. Says I should at least meet him." Gideon sat beside her on the couch, drawing her close.
"We need to find a way to end this matchmaking business once and for all."
"Short of eloping? I'm not sure what would work." Olivia rested her head against his shoulder. "She's convinced no one is good enough for her only daughter." The couple sat in silence for several minutes, each lost in thought. Outside, the sounds of the city provided a gentle backdrop to their contemplation. Car horns, distant conversations, the occasional siren. Suddenly, Gideon straightened.
What if you were unavailable?"
Olivia looked up at him, confusion evident in her expression. "What do you mean? I am unavailable. I'm with you."
"No, I mean—"
He paused, a mischievous glint in his eye.
"What if you were with someone else? Someone your mother couldn't possibly object to?"
"Are you suggesting I date someone else to appease my mother?" Olivia pulled away, eyebrows knitting together. "Not exactly." Gideon stood and began pacing again, his movements energetic now rather than anxious.
"What if we introduced your mother to your new girlfriend? Someone accomplished, poised, from a good family, everything she's looking for."
"My girlfriend?" Olivia repeated slowly. "But I'm not—"
"My cousin Madeline,"
Gideon continued, excitement building in his voice.
"Well-educated, from a respectable family, impeccable manners."
"Your cousin Madeline? I've never heard you mention her before." A smile spread across Gideon's face.
"That's because she doesn't exist. Not yet, anyway."
Understanding dawned on Olivia's face, her eyes widening. "You can't be serious."
"Why not? Your mother has never met any of my family. She has no reason to suspect anything."
"You want to dress up as a woman and pretend to be my girlfriend?" Olivia's voice rose in disbelief.
"Just once or twice,"
Gideon said, sitting back down beside her.
"Just enough to convince your mother that you're unavailable for her matchmaking schemes."
Olivia stared at him for several long moments before a reluctant smile tugged at her lips. "You'd really do that for me?"
"For us,"
he corrected.
I can't stand seeing you upset every time she calls with another perfect match.
But how would we even pull this off? You're 6 feet tall with shoulders like a linebacker.
Gideon waved dismissively. Details. We can figure it out. Do you have any friends who might help us?
Olivia considered this, tapping her fingers against her thigh. Becca used to do theater in college. She might have some ideas.
Perfect. Let's call her.
3 days later, the apartment looked like a department store dressing room had exploded in the living room. Clothing in various sizes and styles was draped over every available surface. Becca, a petite woman with cropped black hair and multiple ear piercings, circled Gideon with a critical eye. The height we can work with. Tall women exist. The shoulders are trickier, but not impossible. She held up a navy blue wrap dress. This style will help balance your proportions.
Gideon eyed the garment dubiously. Will that even fit me?
That's why I brought options, Becca replied, with professional detachment. Now, about the face. Your features are actually pretty good for this. Strong, but not too angular. Olivia sat cross-legged on the couch, watching the proceedings with a mix of amusement and apprehension.
I still can't believe we're doing this. Desperate times, Gideon said, taking the dress from Becca. So, what's the plan here? Full transformation at once? Or should we take it in stages?
Let's start with the basics, Becca said. Clothing first, then we'll tackle hair and makeup. For the next hour, Gideon tried on various outfits under Becca's exacting guidance. The navy wrap dress proved to be the winner, complemented by a pair of low-heeled black pumps that miraculously fit his feet. Now for the hair, Becca announced, producing a shoulder-length auburn wig from her bag. I borrowed this from the theater department. It's good quality, should look natural enough. Olivia leaned forward, suddenly more engaged. Auburn? That's actually perfect. My mother always said she wished I had inherited her auburn hair instead of Dad's blonde. Gideon sat patiently as Becca positioned the wig on his head, adjusting it carefully before stepping back to assess her work.
Well?
He asked, looking between the two women. Olivia's eyes widened. It's actually really good. The color suits you. The makeup will really pull it together, Becca said, already opening her extensive cosmetics kit. Nothing too heavy. We want natural, sophisticated. As Becca worked, applying foundation, contouring, eye makeup, and finally a subtle rose-colored lipstick, Gideon gradually transformed. When she finally handed him a mirror, he stared at his reflection in astonishment.
I look different, he said, turning his head from side to side.
The auburn hair framed his face softly, and Becca's skillful makeup had subtly feminized his features without looking artificial. You look beautiful, Olivia said quietly, coming to stand behind him.
Truly.
Gideon met her eyes in the mirror.
Beautiful enough to fool your mother?
With the right accessories and attitude, absolutely. She reached into her jewelry box and withdrew a simple pearl necklace and matching earrings. These were my grandmother's. They're perfect for Madeline's refined taste. Once the pearls were in place, Gideon stood and smoothed down the front of the navy dress. With the wig, makeup, clothing, and jewelry, the transformation was remarkable. He was still tall, still broad-shouldered, but undeniably feminine in presentation. Now for the voice and mannerisms, Becca said. Don't try to go too high-pitched. That's a common mistake. Aim for a gentle, well-modulated tone. And remember, women tend to take up less space than men. Keep your movements more contained. For the next 2 hours, they practiced. Gideon worked on his voice, finding a natural-sounding register that didn't strain his throat. He practiced sitting, walking in the low heels, and gesturing in a more feminine way. "I think we're ready for a dress rehearsal," Becca finally announced. "Olivia, you be your mother. Madeline, let's see you introduce yourself." Olivia straightened her posture and assumed her mother's slightly pinched expression. "And who might you be?" she asked, her voice taking on Patricia's crisp tone. Gideon extended his hand delicately. "Madeline Porter. I'm Gideon's cousin from the East Coast. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Henderson. Olivia has told me so much about you." Even Becca looked impressed. "That was perfect. Natural, confident, but not overdone." Olivia broke character, a wide smile spreading across her face. "She's going to love you. She's going to love Madeline."
"You think this will actually work?"
Gideon asked. "If it doesn't, at least we'll have an amazing story to tell someday," Olivia replied, leaning up to kiss his cheek, careful not to smudge the lipstick. Sunday evening arrived with alarming speed. Gideon and Olivia stood outside Patricia Henderson's elegant townhouse, both equally nervous. "Remember the backstory?" Olivia whispered. "You're Gideon's cousin from Boston, visiting for a few weeks. We met when you came to the city last year for a conference."
"Harvard Business School, investment banking, but transitioning to nonprofit work, tennis on weekends. No serious relationships until now," Gideon recited softly, adjusting the pearl necklace at his throat. The auburn wig was styled in a sophisticated bob, and the navy wrap dress fit perfectly thanks to Becca's alterations. Low heels gave him additional height, though he hardly needed it. A subtle floral perfume completed the transformation. "You look incredible," Olivia said, squeezing his hand. "Ready?" Gideon took a deep breath and nodded. "As I'll ever be." Olivia rang the doorbell. Moments later, Patricia Henderson opened the door, her expression shifting from polite welcome to surprise as she took in the tall, auburn-haired woman beside her daughter. "Mom, I'd like you to meet Madeline Porter," Olivia said smoothly. "My girlfriend." Patricia's mouth opened slightly, eyes widening as she processed this unexpected development. "Girlfriend?"
she repeated.
"It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Henderson,"
Gideon said in Madeline's well-practiced voice.
"Your home is lovely."
Patricia seemed to collect herself, good manners overriding her surprise. "Please, come in, both of you." They followed her into a tastefully decorated living room. Gideon was careful to sit, as Becca had taught him, knees together, ankles crossed, taking up minimal space. "I must say, this is unexpected," Patricia said, her keen eyes assessing Madeline. "Olivia hasn't mentioned—" "It's relatively new, Mom," Olivia interjected, "but also not something I felt I needed to announce immediately."
"I understand your surprise,"
Gideon said, his voice gentle. "Olivia wanted to be sure of her feelings before introducing me to someone as important as her mother." Patricia's expression softened slightly at this diplomatic response. "And how did you two meet?" The evening progressed more smoothly than either Gideon or Olivia had dared hope. Patricia, initially taken aback, warmed considerably to Madeline's charm and evident affection for her daughter. Gideon played his role perfectly, sharing details of Madeline's background, education, and career with just the right amount of modest confidence. During dinner, Patricia remarked, "You know, I had invited a colleague's son to join us this evening, but he had to cancel at the last minute." Olivia and Gideon exchanged knowing glances.
"What a shame,"
Gideon murmured, dabbing delicately at the corner of his mouth, with a napkin.
Though I must selfishly admit I'm pleased to have Olivia's undivided attention.
Patricia's eyes lingered on their clasped hands resting on the table.
You seem very happy together.
We are, Olivia confirmed, the truth in her voice unmistakable even as the context was fabricated. Madeline understands me in a way no one else ever has. By the end of the evening, Patricia was insisting that Madeline must come to their family gathering the following month. My sister will be visiting from Chicago. She'd love to meet you both. In the taxi ride home, Gideon and Olivia collapsed against each other in a mixture of relief and disbelief. She liked you, Olivia said, wonder in her voice. She really liked you.
Of course she did. Madeline is a catch.
Gideon replied with a grin, though his feet were killing him in the heels.
So what happens now? We just keep this up?
Gideon considered this, fingers absently playing with the pearl necklace.
Just until she stops trying to set you up. Then Madeline can gracefully exit the picture.
Yet, even as he said it, something in his expression suggested uncertainty. The family gathering arrived, and with it, the second appearance of Madeline Porter. This time, Gideon felt oddly less nervous as he dressed in a forest green A-line dress, the auburn wig now styled with subtle waves. The pearls again adorned his neck and ears, becoming something of a signature for Madeline.
You seem more comfortable, Olivia observed as they drove to her aunt's house. Is that strange? Gideon asked. I thought I'd be more nervous, but it feels almost natural now.
Olivia studied him for a moment. Not strange. Interesting. The gathering was larger than anticipated, with extended family members Olivia hadn't seen in years suddenly appearing, curious about her new relationship. Gideon navigated the social waters with surprising grace, maintaining Madeline's persona without faltering. Patricia beamed with pride as she introduced Madeline to her sister. Harvard Business School, she emphasized, the same credential she had once touted for the doctors and lawyers she'd tried to set Olivia up with. Later, as Gideon helped clear dishes from the dinner table, Patricia's sister cornered him in the kitchen. You know, she said quietly, my niece has never looked happier. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. Something warm unfurled in Gideon's chest at these words.
I intend to, he replied, and meant it.
On the drive home, Olivia was unusually quiet. Finally, she said, my mother called off dinner with the neurosurgeon she was trying to set me up with next week.
Mission accomplished, then,
Gideon said, though his tone lacked the triumph one might expect. Yes, but... Olivia hesitated. What does that mean for Madeline? The question hung between them, more complex than it appeared on the surface. Weeks passed, and Madeline continued to make appearances. A birthday celebration for Olivia's grandfather, a charity gala where Patricia proudly introduced her daughter's girlfriend to her social circle, Sunday brunches that had once been awkward affairs now filled with easy conversation. The auburn wig no longer felt foreign on Gideon's head. The dresses, once strange, now felt comfortable against his skin. Madeline's voice came naturally, her mannerisms no longer requiring conscious thought. At home, Gideon and Olivia rarely discussed the situation directly. The items associated with Madeline, the wig, the dresses, the makeup, gradually migrated from boxes in the closet to more permanent places in their shared space. One evening, as they prepared for bed, Olivia finally addressed the elephant in the room. You enjoy being her, don't you? Gideon paused, toothbrush halfway to his mouth. He met Olivia's eyes in the bathroom mirror.
Yes,
he admitted simply.
Is that a problem?
Olivia shook her head. No, it's actually nice seeing this side of you. You seem, I don't know, more complete somehow.
I can stop if you want. The matchmaking seems to have ended.
That's not what I'm saying at all. Olivia moved to stand behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist. I'm saying I love you. All of you. Including Madeline. Gideon turned in her embrace, overwhelmed by emotion.
You mean that?
Completely. She reached up to touch his face gently.
The question is, what do you want?
It was a question Gideon had been avoiding asking himself. Now, faced with it directly, he found the answer came more easily than expected.
I want to explore this. I don't know exactly what it means yet, but being Madeline feels right in a way I never anticipated.
Olivia nodded, her expression open and accepting.
Then we'll figure it out together.
3 months after Madeline's first appearance, Gideon made a decision. It was time for honesty, with himself, with Olivia, and with Patricia. They invited Patricia for dinner at their apartment, an intimate setting for what promised to be a challenging conversation. Gideon greeted her at the door, not as Madeline, but as himself, though traces of her were evident in his more careful posture and softer speech patterns. Patricia's confusion was immediate. Where's Madeline? Olivia said she would be here. That's what we need to talk about, Mom, Olivia said, guiding her mother to the couch. Please, just listen before you react. Over the next hour, they explained everything. The matchmaking that had driven them to create Madeline, the unexpected journey of self-discovery that followed, and finally, the truth about Madeline's identity. Patricia sat in stunned silence as the story unfolded. When they finished, she looked at Gideon with new eyes. So, all this time, when I was praising Madeline's poise and intelligence, that was all Gideon, Olivia confirmed, holding his hand tightly. The same person you once thought wasn't good enough for me. Patricia had the grace to look ashamed. I don't know what to say.
You don't have to say anything right now, Gideon said gently. We understand this is a lot to process.
After a long silence, Patricia asked, So, where does this leave everything? Are you... She struggled to find the right words.
I'm exploring my gender identity,
Gideon explained. I don't have all the answers yet, but I know that being Madeline feels authentic in a way I never expected. Patricia nodded slowly. And you, Olivia? How do you feel about all this? I love him. Her. The person I've always loved, Olivia said simply. The packaging matters less than what's inside. Patricia rose and paced the room, processing. Finally, she turned to face them both. I owe you an apology. Several, actually. For the matchmaking, for not seeing what was right in front of me, and for making assumptions about what would make my daughter happy. She approached Gideon and took his hands in hers. I grew to care deeply for Madeline. It will take some adjustment to understand this new reality, but I'm willing to try. Relief washed over Gideon's face.
That's all we can ask.
1 year later, the apartment was transformed for a special occasion. Friends and family gathered to celebrate Gideon's birthday, the first since she had officially transitioned to living as Madeline full-time. Her auburn hair, now growing in naturally and supplemented by extensions when needed, was styled in elegant waves. She wore a midnight blue cocktail dress that highlighted her increasingly feminine figure, the result of hormone therapy and dedicated exercise. The pearl necklace and earrings, now permanently gifted by Olivia, adorned her neck and ears as always. Patricia arrived early, helping with final preparations. The awkwardness of the early days had given way to a genuine, if sometimes still tentative, acceptance. She embraced Madeline warmly. "The cake just arrived. It's beautiful. They did exactly what you asked for." "Thank you for picking it up," Madeline said, her voice now naturally settled into its feminine register. Olivia entered from the bedroom, stunning in a green dress that complemented Madeline's blue. "The guests will be arriving soon. Are we ready?" "As I'll ever be," Madeline replied, echoing her words from that first night at Patricia's house, though with confidence rather than trepidation. As friends began to arrive, some who had known Gideon for years, others who had only ever known Madeline, the apartment filled with laughter and conversation. Becca, still proud of her role in the initial transformation, brought a scrapbook documenting the journey. "From that first makeover to now," she said, presenting it to Madeline. "You've come a long way." Later, as Madeline stood to thank everyone for coming, she found herself momentarily overwhelmed with emotion. Olivia rose to stand beside her, a silent pillar of support. "A year ago, I was still figuring out who I was," Madeline began. "Some of you knew me before, when I was still trying to live as someone else. Others of you have only known me as I am now, but all of you have shown me what acceptance truly means." She looked at Patricia, who nodded encouragingly. "This journey began as a deception, a scheme to end some rather persistent matchmaking." Gentle laughter rippled through the room, Patricia joining in good-naturedly. "But what started as pretense revealed a truth I hadn't been ready to acknowledge. Sometimes we find ourselves in the most unexpected places." Olivia squeezed her hand. "And sometimes those unexpected places turn out to be exactly where we belong." After the party, as they cleaned up together, Patricia approached Madeline with an envelope. "I've been meaning to give you this." Inside was a photograph Madeline had never seen before. Patricia as a young woman, with striking auburn hair falling in waves around her shoulders. "My natural color before it started graying," Patricia explained. "When I first met Madeline, something about her reminded me of myself at that age. Now I understand why I felt that connection so strongly." Madeline touched the photograph gently. "Thank you for sharing this with me. I also wanted to say..." Patricia hesitated. "I'm proud of you. The courage it takes to be authentically yourself. That's something I've always wanted for Olivia, and now I see it in you too." Later that night, as Madeline removed her makeup and prepared for bed, she studied her reflection in the mirror. The face looking back at her was finally her own. Not a disguise, not a performance, but her true self. Olivia appeared behind her, wrapping her arms around Madeline's waist, just as she had done that night months ago when everything had started to change. "Happy?" she asked, simply. Madeline turned in her embrace, auburn hair catching the soft bedroom light. "Completely," she answered, and leaned down to kiss the woman who had loved her through every stage of becoming herself. In the corner of their bedroom, the navy blue wrap dress that had started it all hung preserved in a garment bag, a reminder that sometimes the most unexpected disguises reveal the most essential truths.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!